So here's a controversial question. Is it ever okay to judge other people? Now, for many people today, just me asking that very question, they will find it triggering. Their immediate response, their immediate answer would be to say an emphatic no. Under no circumstances are we to judge other people. And I would say most modern Christians would likewise say the same thing, perhaps even throwing in Matthew 7:1, where Christ famously said, "Do not judge, lest you too be judged." But is there never really a time and a place to judge other people's actions, their behaviors, their speech? What about when it comes to narcissists, grifters? How will we be able to spot them if we're unwilling to judge others? And really, is that what Christ meant, that we are never to judge? That we're just supposed to carry on through life with a hear no evil, see no evil approach? Well, in this video, we're going to be looking at the difference between good judgment versus the bad kind of judgment. So watch this video all the way through to the end and judge for yourself. Unfortunately, Western culture right now, we're experiencing a form of moral paralysis. People are afraid, too afraid to speak up in public, too afraid to speak out against things that they know to be wrong. And this would include both religious people and secular people. People are afraid. And what are they afraid of? Well, they're afraid of committing the worst sin imaginable, at least according to modern Western culture. They're afraid of committing the unpardonable sin, the unforgivable sin of judging others. Speak out against something and you're accused of judging. Speak out. Perhaps you need to confront someone, a family member, a loved one, a neighbor, a coworker, because maybe they've lied to you or they're just making poor life choices. And what happens? They turn the tables on you by claiming that you are judging them. And now suddenly you're the bad person. And of course, narcissists, sociopaths, grifters, they take full advantage of this. So let's start with the basics. In a court of law, a judge's job is to, well, judge others, right? The purpose of a judge is to hand down a verdict. Has this person broken the law or not? Is this person guilty or innocent? And that's what it all boils down to. And anyone except possibly the guilty person wouldn't have any problem with that. That's a judge's job. But what about for the rest of us who live outside of the courtroom? Is it ever good for us to judge others, judge their actions, their behavior? Well, I hate to break it to you, but we do it all the time, but we just don't realize it. Furthermore, I would say that as long as our intentions are good, there's nothing wrong with that. For example, suppose you're trying to decide whether this friend group is good for your own kids. Well, what you're doing is you're judging that friend group. And ultimately, you're judging kids. Ultimately, as well, you're judging their parents. Or suppose you're trying to decide whether a certain person is marriage material. Well, you're judging him or her. If you're trying to decide whether you should move to this neighborhood, whether it would be good for your family, well, by doing that, you're judging an entire community, an entire neighborhood. And in fact, I would say, as I said tongue-in-cheek just a few minutes ago, ultimately, what you are doing right now is judging me. You're trying to decide, is this old guy in this video, is he speaking truth or is he speaking bull? Should you continue watching or go on to another video? Either way, what you have to realize is that you're judging this very moment. Now, my point is that it's simply impossible for us to go throughout life without judging other people. In fact, when someone says that it is wrong to judge, what they're doing is, in fact, judging. When they see somebody making a judgment against someone else's behavior or actions, and they say to that person, "Stop judging. That judging is wrong." Well, what they've done is they've just judged that person. And it's like when people say there's no such thing as absolute truth. Well, are you absolutely sure about that? It's a self-defeating argument. And what I always find amusing, well, okay, it's not always amusing. It can be annoying and frustrating at times, but having a Christian YouTube channel, in the comment sections, from time to time, I get angry comments, people saying, "You shouldn't be judging other people." And then they'll totally rip me apart and completely judge me for several paragraphs, all the while failing to realize that they themselves are judging me. But judging in the truest sense of the word is simply discernment of trying to make wise choices and decisions as we navigate through life. And doesn't mean that our discernment will always be accurate, will always be right, but nevertheless, judging other people's actions, it's all part of the human experience. And that's why Christ said in John chapter 7, verse 24, he said, "Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly." So when is it wrong to judge others? What is the wrong kind of judging? Well, a term for it, a name for it, is called being judgmental. And it boils down to your motives, your intentions. Being judgmental is when you're not seeking reconciliation between you and the offending person. You're not offering redemption. You're not trying to help that other person out, but rather you're merely tearing them to shreds, tearing them down in order to build yourself up, to make you smugly feel important, self-righteous. Oh, my kids, they're so much better than those kids. And obviously I'm a much better parent than theirs. Or I could never marry that person because I'm just too good for them. Or I could never move to that neighborhood. They're just trailer trash. Or why listen to this old guy on this video? He's just an old white heterosexual male. And it's really that self-righteous, hypocritical judgmentalism that Christ was referring to in Matthew 7:1 when he said, "Judge not lest you too be judged." He clearly wasn't saying, never speak truth, don't discern, be silent in the face of evil. No, he was pointing out the wrong kind of judging. The kind of judging is when we tear other people down only in order to build ourselves up. And this is a thing that so many people don't understand about Matthew 7:1. Do not judge lest you be judged, when they take things out of context. Just a few verses later, in verse 6, Christ said, "Do not give to dogs what is sacred, and do not cast your pearls before swine." Now, to ancient Jews, dogs and pigs were considered some of the most unclean animals. These are animals that you wanted to stay clear of. And here we have Jesus warning, categorizing certain people either as dogs or as pigs. Now, what he was getting at was that although we are supposed to be merciful, we are supposed to be kind, we're supposed to extend forgiveness to everyone, at the same time, we need to realize that there are certain bad actors who we need to stay far away from, that we need to be alert. Because in verse 16 to 20, Jesus then went on to describe those who would come to you as wolves in sheep's clothing. On the outside, they'll look fine, but inwardly, they're like wolves. They don't care about the innocent. They don't care about how much suffering they will inflict upon other people. Their only purpose, their only motive is to satisfy their own wants, their own desires. And they don't care about other people. And the only way we can spot those people, Jesus says, he said, you will know them by their fruit. In other words, judge their actions, judge their behavior. And that's why he also told his disciples in Matthew 10. He warned them, he told them, be as shrewd as snakes, but as innocent as doves. Now, in the next video, part 2, we're going to be looking at two things. The first is the importance of accepting the judgments of others, how critical that is for our own personal growth. Then the next will be looking at the wolves in sheep's clothing, the narcissists, the grifters, the sociopaths. It's those people who tend to scream the loudest that we shouldn't be judging other people. Like, share, and dare to be wise.